What are the cycles fathers pass down that sons are left to heal? What if being a man wasn't about holding it all together, but learning how to let go? This is a space where men speak truth and find the power to heal and transform. I'm Mike Della Rocha. Welcome to Sacred Lessons. Some men find their voice through art. Others find it in the dark. Welcome to Sacred Lessons. I'm Mike Della Rocha. Today's guest is someone whose work has not only inspired me, but has helped reshape the entire conversation around masculinity, abolition, and healing. Richie Reseda is an artist, an abolitionist, and the CEO of Cultura. He co-founded Success Stories, where he taught men inside Soledad State Prison how to unlearn patriarchy. And he's one of the visionaries behind the new documentary, Songs from the Hole. There's something sacred about turning a cell into a studio, a punishment into a prayer, and a cage into a classroom. And Richie is one of the few men alive who can speak honestly and authentically about how art transformed his life and how healing is possible anywhere. Richie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Mike. Truly.
No, honestly, I've been looking forward to this for a while because we've known each other for a while, but I knew you before I knew you because of our mutual friends. Mm-hmm. And I knew the work you were doing inside and outside. And have always still to this day admired your willingness to be yourself and to push us to fall in love who we are and to know that we're never static. We're always moving. And
thank you.
Yeah, but on the other side is just being someone that's seen the effects of mass incarceration in the criminal legal system and the punishment upon my family. You have shown me that, like I said in the intro, that healing is possible anywhere, no matter where it's at. And so I'm excited you're here. And so for folks that don't know who Richie is, can you just share a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into songs from the whole.
Yeah, I'm a producer. I'm a cultural organizer. I was locked up when I was 19, fought to change the law alongside you and many Californians, and that's what helped me get out just before I turned 27. And everything I do now as a producer, as an organizer, all started while I was in prison. I mean, it started before that. Many of our shared friends are my mentors, like Mark Anthony Johnson, Patrice Cullors. These are people who politicized me and organized me when I was 14. But I really became like an organizer and stepped into my leadership and took my art most seriously while I was in prison, including making the music for Songs from the Hole while we were in prison and producing it from the time I got out.
So let's jump into that. Songs from the Hole just came out. Tell the listeners, what is that about? But what was your impetus for doing that film?
Yeah, Songs from the Hole is about my good brother 88, JJ 88. He went to prison when he was 15. He killed somebody when he was a kid and went to prison. And then his brother was killed 3 days later in a completely unrelated incident. And he's also from here in LA. He would say he's from Long Beach. He's not from LA, but... And when I met 88 in prison, I didn't know his story yet. I just knew he could rap well and he could sing well. And as I heard the music, he had written a whole album about his experience while he was in the hole. And as he was showing me the music, I was like, yo, we got to produce this. And I had recently released an album from prison with the good help of my boy, Damon Turner. And
shout out Damon.
Yeah. And I was like, we got to do his next. And he was the first artist that I signed to Cultura, which is our worker-owned production company and management company. And we worked, that was a 10-year project. But that's what it's about. It's about his experience as somebody who both committed and experienced deadly harm and actually chose transformative justice to deal with it while we were in prison.
Let's tap into this because I say it a lot. You've also said, prison, or let me reframe this. You say patriarchy is a form of a prison. because it
Yeah.
doesn't just impact women; it impacts all of us, men, Black and brown men in particular. Though it robs us of who we are and our ability to feel. For example, this whole album, to me, album, they're love letters,
Yeah.
right? Can you expand upon that? Like, obviously you said, oh, I'm going to put this out, but I want to put something else out. What was the reason what were you hopeful?
Oh, I chose to do the album, which then became the film, with 88, because he had a real life example of applying this shit for real. I don't want to give away the film, but I'll say what I will say is that 88 meets the man that killed his brother during the time we were in prison, and his response to that is something that I feel like we all could learn from. People say that I think our current culture teaches us there's no way to respond to violence but with more violence. That's what prisons themselves are a model of that, whether it be the streets, courts, our own family, hitting children. It's all like violence. We have decided that violence is the only way. Like, violence has to rule our lives. Our lives have to be based in violence. Our lives can't be based in care. And 88 shows us something different. And it was reflected in the music, and I wanted to be a part of bringing that to the world.
And then your work is really about teasing, well, what is the alternative then, right? If we live in a society, in a country that was founded on violence, and these systems want to perpetuate that, then if I'm someone, then what do I do? Like, what can I do then? Obviously, 88 is an example, but in your work, you tease this out a lot.
Yeah, what we found, I've experimented with a lot of things, like truly. Like, around the time we met when I was fresh out, it was right after the release of The Feminist on Cell Block Y, which is another documentary, same director, Contessa Gales, that she made about success stories, which was our work doing like feminist accountability circles in prison, which you talked a little about in the intro. That was like my first organizing project in prison. I started Success Stories with my boy Charles in 2014. So 11, almost 12 years later, what we ended up realizing is what made Success Stories work is that we were accountable to each other. All of us are locked up, so there's no one to say this is good, this is bad. Oftentimes people will be like, wow, Richie, you were teaching feminism. It's not untrue. I mean, we were using Bell Hooks's writing. I was organizing spaces for us to learn it together, but it was more important than the learning. It was about the practicing of it. So in a Success Story circle back then, every time you came, everybody, on the very first day, you set out what are your most important goals and the most important people in your life. And now we're going to take a 12-week journey on how to live for those goals and those people. And everything, and you learn very quickly working with men that what we put in front of our people and our goals and ourselves is this, culture of violent masculinity. I know I did. That's what led me to be in prison in the first place. Right. So simply teaching someone about that isn't quite enough. Like, we could learn. People say if you knew better, you'd do better. I don't think that's fully true. What I've learned in my experience doing this 12 years now is not necessarily true. It's not just about knowing better. I knew better when I got locked up. I was going to feminist men's groups with Mark Anthony when I was 14. But the cultural pull, the power of like wanting to be one of, was more powerful than the knowledge that I had of what I had read in Bell Hooks' work at 14, 15. The choices I was making at 16, 17, 18, 19 that ultimately led me to prison was based on something deep. I think it's deeper than knowledge. It's a heart thing.
Right.
And I feel like as a culture now, we're a little tripped up on that. Post 2020, there was kind of this, I'll call it the Instagram revolution, where now there's all these people talking about this stuff. It probably happened before that, but I was locked up before that.
Right.
What I've learned is we actually need spaces to lovingly hold each other accountable to this version of ourselves that we want to be, that's actually in integrity with our people, ourselves, our goals, the earth. It's not just like knowing it, it's being it and having the humility to ask each other, like, can you help hold this to me? I will get pulled. I will go astray from it. When I was 14, I learned the words and read the books, but I didn't necessarily have a place to be held to living that way, and a commitment to living that way. And
so it sounds like, though, the men in prison committed to each other, and that you were gonna, without shame, without judgment, you're gonna you're gonna be present, and you're gonna hold each other. And it sounds like that was the first time you experienced that, right? Because it wasn't just the head, it was the heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Those are the deepest relationships that I've really had with men towards integrity. Because gangbanging was the same, but it wasn't towards integrity. Right. We're also holding each other to a standard when we're gangbanging. It's holding each other to the standard of violent masculinity, of violence, of being better than, of getting as rich as possible. It's, like recreating the capitalism around us. So it's the same in that it's a group of people holding each other accountable, but accountable to what? And Success Stories was a place where we were holding each other accountable to our integrity. And what we've been doing with the film is once people watch it, we then sit down and help them build those kinds of communities around them. Mia Mingus and the Soil Collective call it accountability pods. Like, we see that as the actual infrastructure that abolition requires. If you don't have a commitment to living in integrity with the community and the earth, and you don't have a group of people holding you to that, then we're just talking.
So what is, for someone that doesn't know, quickly, just how do you define abolition? And then number two, these accountability pods, what are they? How do I form one? What are they?
Well, abolition is getting rid of the colonial state and its culture, which is that's a generational project to do, to undo centuries of colonization and how it set us up to think and be. And I think people start with prison abolition. I don't start there. Not that that's not important, and shout out to all the organizations that are working to get people out. But as somebody who has also started and worked in one of those organizations and has been working for decades getting people out, largely my friends and family, a lot of my friends and family are back in. Because, and that's not to say it wasn't worthwhile to get them out.
Right.
It absolutely was. And without the accountability pod, without a place to be held lovingly, without shame, to your own integrity, it is inevitable you're going to go with this world. And for people like us, this world is usually going to pull us towards prison, jail, domestic violence, the flavors of patriarchy that Black and brown people experience. For, white people, you might find yourself in the Epstein files, but, we're not in that echelon of patriarchy. We're in this one over here.
Right. Well, so it's coming. The question culture, the doc, the music, that's because we're trying to change the culture to one of integrity.
Come on.
That's anti-colonial. And then the pods is the infrastructure, the local infrastructure. That's maybe different than when I use the term infrastructure. People think a building and all that. It's a relationship.
Yeah, it's the relational infrastructure. It's the social infrastructure.
Yes.
Right now, our social infrastructure is one of individualism.
Yes.
Everybody for themselves. So, of course, if you're everybody for themselves, then you need police to be like, if everybody's trying to get over on each other, of course there has to be someone with a gun to be like, you can do this, you can't do this. But if everybody's trying to be in integrity with each other, nobody has to tell me not to hurt Mike.
Right.
There's nobody right here who's like gonna jump on me if I jump on you. The only reason we're not beating each other up is because we genuinely see each other as ourselves. Like, we are connected, we are one, we love each other. And the accountability pod is the infrastructure of love. So you're absolutely right. That is what we do at Question Culture. We make cultural products like music, film, whatever, to spread a cultural practice, which is the practice of the accountability pod.
Yep. So this doc is another vehicle
to have this conversation, but then also, I don't want to say matchmake, but to model to communities, hey, we actually are, we are all we got,
Yep.
but we actually could thrive in this kind of relationship
Yep.
because we won't ever be without, right? And
Everything we need is right here.
it's in us.
A lot of the only things in between us and it are imaginary.
Right.
There's a store right here full of everything we'd ever need to live. What I need to exchange with them for them to give me what I need is imaginary.
Yeah.
You know, once we all agree that we're going to take care of each other, then we have everything we need. So,
Right.
but we have to build actual infrastructure, because the only reason why we're not doing that now is because nobody trusts each other.
Right.
We don't trust each other because we have no relational infrastructure. Why would I trust you? Something else we got to see from like 2020 to now is a lot of organizations who are on the same side. We got to see the breakdown of that. Because we're running off of the colonizers' operating system. Individualism, defensiveness, I'm right, you're wrong. So we don't trust each other within our own spaces. Everything we're trying to fight against, and sexual violence, and racism, and all that shit is happening in the house. In our house, with our families, in our organizations, right? Because we don't have we don't have a culture of holding each other accountable to being in integrity. So that's what we're really trying to build. We're trying to make it so that something like abolition is even truly possible.
Right. Well, you're embodying the principles. But if I was listening to this and I'm like, dang, you just spoke a lot of truth that people oftentimes put under the rug, then I'm like, okay, well then, is it worth it? How do we, I don't want to even say win, because win automatically says there's someone that's going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
But so then how do we repair and restore if you're like, hey, we're already banging on each other on the so-called left or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So then what is the, how do I get hope? How can I be optimistic then?
Yeah. Well, what makes me optimistic is that we didn't make this up, right?
Right.
This type of relational infrastructure is ancient. We were already doing it. People are already doing it all over the world. It's ancient, it's indigenous, nature is doing it. And we still do it all the time, even now, right?
We don't name it.
Yeah, we don't even see it. It's like, who I often tell people, look at who you're giving money to. Not when you're buying stuff. Who do you give your money away to without even thinking about it? Like, those are the people who you're like, usually it's going to end up being your kids, your romantic partners, your family. Like, we're already practicing this level of like mutual aid and support with each other all the time. Or like when somebody gets in trouble with the law and their family is going to support them like mine did, it's not because my family supported the robberies that I committed. It's because they want to see me accountable. They just don't want to see me tortured by the state.
Right.
So it's in us. There's an instinct in us. This system kind of beats it out of us because it's not profitable. It's more profitable to individualize us. It's more profitable to have everybody here take their own Uber home than we all get in one person's car and the homie drops us off, right? So they want us separated. Yeah, but what also gives me hope is that you could start at any time. We have this tool. It's on our website. It's on our socials. We push it everywhere. It's completely free. We developed it in community. Again, we did not make this stuff up. We just put it on paper.
Right.
But we have this tool called a collective healing plan that we give out every time we show the film. And it basically, it's a place to start. You gather your closest people and you just make commitments to yourself and them. What are the commitments that you're making to yourself, your community, and the earth as it pertains to your health, your spiritual practice, your relationships, your boundaries? And then you just meet with them regularly and ask them to hold you to that. That's the start. It's really that easy.
How's your life changed from before what you just described to now?
Oh, bro. It's probably the biggest transformation that my life has ever underwent. Like, I'll tell you a story. I'll give you an example. I've been practicing with a pod like in a committed, consistent way. I would say starting from the beginning of Success Stories, because we didn't know to call them pods yet, but that's what we were doing, to now. So for about 10 years. Recently, and I do this with my family. I do this in my romantic relationships. I do this in my friendships. Recently, I had a situation where a family member of mine was about to be out on the street, getting evicted, had basically burned their bridges with everybody in the family. A lot of the drama, a lot of the conflict went down while I was in prison. So I don't even really know what happened and why this person's mad at this person and da-da-da-da-da. But their mental health, they were really not doing well. They were harming themselves and was about to basically be on the streets. Was not in a good place with all their friends. And I just knew this is how people end up unhoused, as somebody who's also been unhoused. Right. And I said, yo, here's the deal. You can live with me if you, and here's where the boundaries are so key, if you are committed to working on your mental health and healing with your friends and our family, healing your relationships. You can stay here. You don't got to pay me nothing. Just keep the spot clean. Work on your mental health, work on your relationships. First they come, they move in, it's kind of like awkward, they have an attitude, whatever, we don't really talk, but we also built in that we're going to be meeting regularly. You bring your friends, I'm going to bring mine. This isn't just me. My family would be like, thank you for doing this, you're so great. I'd be like, I'm not doing no savior shit. All y'all pull up. This is a family thing. I didn't even create this. I have some responsibility in it. But I was a child for a lot of this, and I was in prison for a lot of this. So all y'all adults, the generation above me, y'all pull up too, because you are the most responsible people here outside of this individual. And it was awkward. People didn't really know what I was talking about. Nobody really wanted to come to the circles. You know how it is trying to do fucking circle shit with your family, Yeah. People are like, you're the weird, I'm sure you're the weird cousin, like I'm the weird cousin, Yeah. Anyway, over the course of a year and a half of doing that, eventually my family member, when I was like, yo, I'm ready to sit down and have like a healing conversation with the whole family. And then we did that. And then a week later, while I was traveling, this family member actually got so sick that they almost died and didn't know that they were about to die. They just thought they were regular. They knew something was wrong, but they're so used to just being on their own, not saying shit, they were going to leave it. Anyway, they hit up the rest of the family now that they were back in relationship with them. And the family had a better idea of what was going on. Older people in our family, they came and got them, took them to the emergency room. And the doctor said, you were about 2 days away from dying. Wow. And had we not had the practice, the boundaries, the family pod, the conversation, this family member told me straight up, I wouldn't have hit up nobody. I would have just tried to thug it out, and you would have came home from your trip, and I would have just been dead in the bed for days. Because people's used to not hearing from this person for days, weeks, months at a time. And they're alive today and they had to have emergency surgery. They're almost completely recovered. And every time I talk to them now, I'm just like, wow, this practice saved your life. It literally saved my family's life in the most literal way possible.
That's such a beautiful story, bro. Centering love in its fullest extent. I want to tease out, though, it always takes a catalyst in a family. You named it we're like the weird cousins or whatever, right? And that's almost like living in capitalism, right? Capitalism is not natural. It's not normal. And we seem weird until the weird becomes normal. Talk to me about just being that person that you're with your family members, older, younger, being the one that just kept fighting. Hey, it may not make sense right now, but it's going to make sense. How was that for you, Richie, holding that? Because it's easy to let go because we're busy. Life is busy. It's all about separation, everything else. How was it for you, but what kept you in alignment, integrity with that?
Well, being the weird family member has been hard for me over the course of my life. And I think is a big part of why I got kicked out the house, was in the streets, went to prison in the first place. In prison, I realized First, when I got to prison, I doubled down on the gangsta shit to protect myself. But I had 10 years and 2 strikes. So I'm like, if I get in any violence for real, I could be in here for the rest of my life. Violence is harder to avoid in prison. It's not like you could go home at the end of the day and there's some place that is not violent. And over the course of time, I realized I could try to gangsta my way through, or let me say it this way. I could use violence to protect me, or I could use being my true self to protect me. By being myself, it protected me in a different way. It's like I had developed I had developed a reputation in prison for being who I really am. I remember the first time I like Hello Kitty. I've liked Hello Kitty since I was a kid. It's like an expression of my own femininity. Someone sent me a Hello Kitty birthday card and I put it on my wall. And I was like so afraid. But it was like putting that on my wall. I was really into Beyonce at the time when she released Lemonade. I put some Lemonade stuff on my wall. Like by me being myself, it gave other people permission to be themselves. And that became a new way for me to protect myself, like caring for people, helping people get out, starting success stories. I started being seen not as my mask, but as my real self. And that also protected me in the prison. I was protected through care as opposed to being protected through violence. So even now it is hard, but I stay committed to it. One, because I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of seeing our people hurt. And I saw the power of being my true self. I got a homie named Chris Wachnick. I quote him all the time. You guys actually remind me of each other. You're like a similar age and like similar like generation and like music and stuff. But Chris had told me when I was considering stopping gangbanging in prison, I was like, well, if I stop and then they attack me for stopping and we get in a fight over that, I'm gonna get a life sentence. Or if I keep going, eventually they gonna have me in some bullshit and I'm gonna get a life sentence over that. And he was like, what do you want to go to the dirt for? He was like, let's say you do get a life sentence, bro. Would you rather have gotten a life sentence for something that is not serving you or getting a life sentence for yourself, for being yourself? And that really helped me choose to be myself. And that is what's helped me stay committed to it.
So powerful.
Shout out to Chris, man. That's
Shout out to Chris. Well, I was going to ask you who, from early childhood to now, who are those men that taught you? This conversation and podcast around like masculinity and men's healing. And I've been saying this whole time, like, that is a truth, but not a truth because we're both feminine and masculine energies, right?
Yeah.
But there's, in the society we live in, there is the what is and what should be. And the what is like, I learned how to be a man from my father and my grandfather.
Yeah.
Who are those men that taught you how to be a man?
That's your dad?
That's both of them are actually right there.
That's your dad and your grandfather on the left?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
So they're always with me.
Yeah.
But who taught you? Like the version.
Who taught me masculinity?
Yeah. And the version that you are now. Like obviously this guy Chris is one of them.
Yeah.
But
well, my dad's name is also Chris.
Oh, interesting.
And my dad was my first teacher of masculinity that I remember. And my dad was very masculine. But what's interesting, like my dad was super Christian, Republican, from the projects, never smoked, never drank, didn't cuss, like that version of masculinity. Worked 2 jobs, like got married to my mom when he was 21. Like he was that version of masculinity. He played sports. That's what he wanted for us. And also would like bully us for being too feminine, me and my brothers. And my dad was also feminine. My dad loved Prince. Prince was the most present musical influence in my home. This is the music I heard the most. And somebody who I really based a lot of my masculinity off of Prince. And Prince is super feminine. And after my dad passed in 2020, I was hanging out with my auntie, his little sister. And she told me, she was like, yo, when we were young, everybody thought your dad was gay. And I put that into context to think about that. You know, my dad grew up in the 70s and the 80s. They didn't have as much language as we have now. You know, if I grew up in the 70s and 80s, they would say that about me. People still say that about me. Every podcast I'm on, there's someone in the comments like, yo, this nigga's gay. But I tripped off of that. I tripped off of how much of my dad, even when he bullied us, was him like recreating what happened to him being like, you know, trying to protect us from, you know, the responses to his femininity. And so in a ways, yes, my dad taught me a lot of masculinity. A lot of it was violent. And my dad also taught me to be okay with femininity in men as well. And then later on, I got to meet people like Mark Anthony. Another one of my mentors, their name is Vitali, Jason David. These people would take me to feminist men's group and were the first people to put Bell Hooks books in my hands. And then later on, even from that, being in prison, my cellie, his name was Jazz. My longest cellie, we were cellies for like 4 years and some change. Jazz really taught me how to care for people. Like, Jazz would save up his money the whole year. He worked full time and made $20 a month. Jazz would save up $240 and buy Christmas gifts for the entire building for 200 people. Wow. My first year in the cell with Jazz, he gave me a birthday gift. He gave me a wallet that he made in Folsom. He had been in prison 10 years longer than I'd been alive. So I was turning 22. He was about to have his 32nd year in prison. For my 22nd birthday, he made me a wallet. He gave me a wallet that he made in 1991 in Folsom, and I still have it. Watching Jazz care for people, and that was just unheard of in prison. You don't give nobody nothing in prison. Everything is a trade. The first time he gave me something, I was like, what I owe you? He was like, you don't owe me nothing. What are you talking about? Jazz is somebody who really taught me to care for people, and like I got to see him be like soft as a man, even in prison. And then the bonds that I built with people like 88, who's in Songs from the Hole, our homie Chris Johnson, Manny, Charles, like all these brothers that I made in prison were the closest relationships. I think some of the closest relationships I've ever had, and still are to this day.
I want to tease this out because you just shared such a beautiful, tender story of a man being vulnerable enough to be himself and to embody care in real time. But this is a man that's incarcerated in a cage alongside you. When we're fed society, like the narrative is that men inside prison, they deserve punishment. You know, obviously there's a question of accountability that we're talking about, but it's the truth that you're complicating, which is the most tender moment happened inside of a cell.
Absolutely. Those are that's what I'm trying to say is like my most tender relationships with men was in prison.
Right.
These were the people who are like if the homie's trying to go home and we see he's about to get into a fight, we're going to help diffuse the fight because we're trying to help you go home. You said you're trying to go home. We held each other accountable. There wasn't, what you going to tell the police? We don't talk to the police. Right. So it was a place where we had to hold each other accountable through care. And if you just on bullshit, then I just got to be away from you. Like we had to have boundaries to survive. We do out here too, but it's easier to not see it.
Right.
Yeah. All my most tender relationships with men began in prison and many in my pod, which has 4 other dudes in it, 3 of them were locked up. One of them was locked up with me.
Well, what do you tell men, young men right now that are growing up in a different world? I was listening to a Scott Galloway podcast recently, and he was talking about something like 44% of men, or those that identify as a man, have never even spoken to someone they're attracted to. In this case, it was like they never even talked to a girl because they don't know how. And they're growing up in this
Including
age.
like grown men or just young men?
I don't know. It was 44% of men.
Damn.
Which is like, because now with AI in the digital world, like they don't have the proximity.
That shit is scary.
But it goes back to what you were talking about, the separation and the fear. There's someone profiting off of this disconnection.
Yeah. No,
right?
for sure.
But what do you tell young men that either want to live this hyper masculine or, fit, rich, it's all about me, no one else? What do you tell these young brothers that are trying to figure it out?
I ask them, who do you really want to be? The tough thing is you really can't hold someone accountable who you don't know. So there's only so much I can do with someone who I just don't know. Really, when I work with people, I got to work with the whole community. You got to pull up with everybody. Everybody who cares about this young man, we all got to pull up and have a conversation. That's the thing that makes transformative justice so different than every other form of justice is healing doesn't happen in isolation.
Right.
Our pain and how we express it is a symptom of a larger ecosystem problem. But before Songs from the Hole came out on Netflix, we showed it in 30 prisons around the country. We just toured for like a year and a half. And a lot of them are prisons for children. And the way that we would talk to those kids is the same thing we would do in Success Stories. Who do you really want to be? Who are the most important people to you? What are your most important goals? And now every conversation we have, we're going to filter through those people and those goals. Is that, oh, you on that? Is that what's going to best serve those people and those goals? Oh, you chose to do that today? Is that what's going to best serve those people and those goals? That becomes the anchor point. So it doesn't become about me telling you anything.
Right.
It just becomes me reminding you of who you said you want to be, who you want to live for. Because in all my years of doing it that way, which that method comes from Success Stories. So in the last 12 years, I've never had a person be like, well, my biggest goal is to be the hardest gangbanger on earth. My biggest goal is to have the most bodies from the set. My biggest goal is to fuck as many girls as possible. Nobody's ever said that. It always comes down to community. It always comes down to like financial security, their family, their expressions of who they are, their art. So always. It don't matter. Like, again, we started this, Success Stories was for people 35 and under in prison. I'm still not 35. Everybody I've worked with has been young men for the most part. And it's always the same. And I don't think it's unique to young men. That's human shit. We just got to then have the practice of holding each other accountable to living that way. That's the only thing that I've seen work.
And so do you see a role for, like, on the Success Stories, and even what you just said, like our elders or our mentors? Yes,
absolutely. The elders and the mentors are part of our community.
Right.
Those are the people we have the most to learn from. This society is crazy. It's so backwards. It's so crazy how older people are shoved to the side and put in these little homes or just pushed out the way. And listen, it takes effort to be in relationship with older people and younger people.
Yeah.
Like, I would say of all the like demographics, the easiest one to like keep us trapped in is generation, in my experience. And I can say that now that I'm of the age that there are...
Speak more on that. What do you mean generation?
Like, it's hard to communicate across generations.
Oh,
we speak a different language. We're from a different world. If you really grew up in like the 20th century, head-ass, rotary phones and like 3 channels on TV, like Jazz is still my boy to this day. I was just with Jazz, you know? Jazz needs a lot of support. Jazz is not from this world. He did 40 years in prison. Right. He is literally from a different world. He's out here now. Being with Jazz takes patience. He walked up to, somebody we were on this retreat with, a young woman who we work with, who he's known for years since he got out. And he said, wow, you've put on weight. Like, my boy was born in 1957 and grew up watching the Ed Sullivan Show and shit like that, and then was in prison with only men for 40 years. To him, he wasn't trying to be rude.
Right.
He wasn't trying to be mean. A lot of our spaces would just cancel him and be like, you can't come around, and use all the words, misogyny, da-da-da. And it's not that it's not true, but it's like, if we're actually trying to make space for each other, it didn't become her responsibility then holler at him. I hollered at him.
Right.
Like, yo, Jazz, we don't really talk about people's bodies. Like, he was like, really? He was like, I didn't mean nothing by it. I wasn't trying to make her feel bad. I said, I know you're never trying to make anybody feel bad,
right,
but you may have made her feel bad. And, I was talking to her the other day and she said, Jazz sent me this huge paragraph apologizing and, you know, talking about how society has changed and, you know. So it takes work to even understand what they're saying. When I talk to these Gen Z kids, I gotta lock in, bro. Like, what are you trying to say? I don't just mean the slang is different. I mean like their whole outlook, like their relationship to the world, the way they're like afraid to speak. I remember I did this workshop with all these kids in a continuation school. They were like 14, 15 years old. Nobody said anything the whole time, bro. Imagine. Not a single question, nothing. Silence. Every time I pose them a question, silence, nothing. When it's over with, I'm like, all right, well, it's an honor to meet y'all. I'm out of here. When I put my Instagram handle on the board. When I got back to the car, every single one of these kids DM'd me.
Wow.
Thank you so much, bro. I'm dealing with this with my brother. I'm dealing with this. I'm da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They're just used to communicating a different way. I was like, all right, I didn't drive off. I'm going to sit in this car for 2 hours and the workshop is here. It's easy to be like, these kids are fucking weirdos. I'm not going to do that. I had you for 2 hours. I'm pretty sure the school didn't pay me. I was just here. And now you're extending my time by 2 hours. Like, I could have been on that, you know? But that's what the work looked like with, you know, Jazz, who's born in 1957, to this kid who's born in 2007. So that's what I mean when it's like, it takes patience and work to communicate beyond your own generation. I can talk to a millennial all day, you know?
Right.
Even the white ones. There is a certain degree to which we're speaking the same language and understand the world the same way.
Right. Man, I feel like I'm getting a PhD right now in in presence and patience and true transformation, really. Because you said something that has, I'm so glad we're together right now.
Same.
Because you're saying a lot of things. You're saying a lot of things that I've been thinking, but you're articulating it in such a profound, deep way, which is why I've been trying to figure out like why my relationship is always going to be tied to movement, because movement allowed me to be who I am and has helped transform this society. But then there's also, like, and you referenced it earlier, movement also, there's a lot of judgment in it.
Yeah.
And touring the country this year, like you have, that's the one thing that's been the most consistent across generations, actually, has been, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be canceled or judged. So I'd rather you just do you and I do me. When I'm like, no, then that's the work to build the relationship. And then trying to figure out, you just gave really a framework, Richie, around like, well, how do you scale this? How do you scale deep relationships? And it's not on an individual. Like you said, it's about like modeling. This is like how you're sharing. This is what I do with my relationships that I choose to be in a committed partnership with, loving accountability with. You guys should do that with each other. I'm not that for you because I don't know you, for example, right? When you're going on tour, but you're really teasing out like this is the work. When we're talking about transformative justice, or we talk about what's healthy masculinity, that's kind of like the blueprint, what you just shared, these pods.
I agree. Thank you. It came from a lot of experimenting. Like, it was a community project. Like, I'm here speaking on it, but I didn't just think about this in my head. Like, this came from years of trying shit with some of my oldest friends. Most of them, or I shouldn't say most of them, many of the people who I practice this with were not men. This is like feminine wisdom. Like, this is the way our grandmothers hold us accountable. And it's the way a lot of my friends, like, do you know Haywan? This is Haywan was my best friend for damn near 20 years. Knew me from high school, gangbanging, prison, getting out, like, through my divorce, through like just seeing everything go down, and was holding me to this type of accountability. Maybe without all the language and all the shit, we were developing it in real time. And a lot of it came through me like hurting people, like Haywan, like other people, and then listening when they're like, yo, I'm hurt. And realizing like, oh, we're missing something, or me being hurt, seeing my friends come back from prison. And then it's like, it got weird. When Success Stories became a nonprofit on the streets and became professionalized, shit got weird because there's new dynamics now. There's like, people are getting paid. Are you my boss? There's so many things that I had to learn from. And then sitting down and listening to those dudes and them expressing their hurts. And they're like, and we're like, oh, we learn all this stuff in prison. We get out. We don't have the infrastructure we had in prison where we're around each other every day, where we can hold each other accountable every day. And dudes were catching new cases, getting in abusive relationships. All kinds of stuff was going down. And we learned like, oh, we need to, that way that we had a consistent space to check in and hold each other accountable lovingly in prison, we need to keep doing that. And in 2020, when the movement as we knew it kind of fell apart, sure, being attacked by the right and all the things, but also like, I think 2020 was as far as the movement was going to get without accountability pods. That is as far as external facing, y'all should all do this, was going to work. We were winning the external battle. Didn't nobody know what abolition was before 2020? Now everybody does. Right. You know, didn't nobody know what transphobia was before 2020? Now everybody does. But because we were centering words instead of practice, or we were centering our battle against Trump instead of our battle against the Trump inside us, we ended up being just like them. And now everybody looks at us like we're the bad guys. We're the cops. We'd be like, abolish the police, and they'd be like, you the police. I feel more, many men feel more policed by the quote unquote liberal left than they do by the motherfuckers with guns. And they're not wrong.
They're not completely wrong.
They're not completely wrong. Obviously, somebody with a gun is more damaging than somebody with a keyboard, but somebody with a keyboard can take your job, take your life, take your kids, take your reputation. Like, it's scary. So I have since committed myself to just building the cultural practice where we can hold each other accountably without judgment.
Bro, I don't even know where to go after that. Jeez, my knees. I mean, that's the soundbite that has to be tattooed on my heart because it's true. It's so true. And how, you know, again, I got to just tease out this whole, we started with colonization in the system, and it's generations and hundreds of years of undoing.
Yep.
And then practicing something.
Yep.
Before I get to this final part of the conversation, what do you, Richie, do? Because it's human nature when it's too much, right? Like when you're getting it from all sides. I don't even want to put left and right out there. I'm just saying all sides. And then you're also getting it from friends, right? Like, hey man, I don't agree with that shit. Or, you know, we get into this Olympics, not even of oppression of words and who's right, who's wrong. But what do you do to like center when, even with the family story you gave and the movement story you gave with 2020, what do you do to be like, what is your breath to keep you centered and focused to keep going with this framework?
I'm still learning it, honestly. What I try to remind myself is we need each other more than we need to be right. I don't need to be in a relationship with nobody. Every relationship that I have, I'm choosing. So if this person or this is not serving my needs, I mean my true needs, food, health, water, safety, agency, then I can step away. But if I'm choosing to be here, then I'm choosing to listen. I'm either going to choose listen or domination. There's the only choices we have is to like integrate or separate. So, or like integrate, separate, or dominate, you know? So I've chosen to take domination off the table as somebody who has been dominated by the system, by redlining, by the LAPD, by the LA sheriffs, by the LA school police department. Like I've chosen to take domination off the table. And sometimes separation is truly what's needed. And if it's not, then I just have to find a way to integrate. And when it's too much, it's like maybe I take a break from the conversation. I think time supports a lot. Right. When I've been in that situation, bro. From 2022 through 2024, I was probably in, no exaggeration, 60 circles with just... It was like the first 3 years of my freedom, I was like, everything was coming to roost. Everybody had a problem with how I was moving. You know, people read my bio and it sounds impressive. He co-founded all these organizations. every organization is a whole community of people who are relying on you and who you have the potential to piss off. Your family, your friends, like everybody had something to say. And I listened because I felt like I needed these people. We need each other. And when it becomes too much, I'm like, okay, I need to take a break off of this. Like some of those relationships, I had to be like, yo, healing is really hard. We only have so much time in the day. We have to spend the majority of our time trying to survive in capitalism. Some relationships I have to be like, yo, I'm gonna step back. And if that means this can't continue, I have to be okay with that.
Right.
But that's where I go back to is like, I genuinely believe we can live in a world without police, prisons, rape culture. And I genuinely believe that practicing integrity with the community and the earth is the way forward. So I'm going to choose that every time. And if I really feel like I don't got it in my body, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to chill. I'm going to play the piano and I'm going to come back.
You're going to dance the Prince.
Yeah. I be dancing, bro. For real. That's one thing about me is I be dancing. Sober and all that. I literally go out to dance.
I know. Well, this section right here, it's called the Sacred Five. And we end every episode with this to give, I mean, you've been giving practical stuff this whole conversation, but it's 5 questions I ask you and you respond in a word or a sentence so that folks will be like, oh, I can consider that in my life. So
wait, hold on. Before we jump in.
Yeah.
I feel like there's one random thing that I want, or like something I wanted to say. Something I want to say in case it didn't come up in there.
Okay.
That we just have. Cut it in if it makes sense somewhere.
It's in.
Okay. I feel like many men are so afraid of being canceled that there's this kind of wave of like, fuck everybody. I'm only out for myself. And that feeling, when we feel like that, is valid. But what I found is it's impossible to be like, fuck everybody. We actually do really need each other. I think it's the job of us, people like you and me, who choose or are called or for whatever reason we're here trying to like build culture on purpose, to create non-judgmental spaces for those men, to say the hard thing, talk through whatever it is, and like be held and loved and have a place to actually transform. And I think it's really whack. I think it's really whack when people, but especially men, jump online and just complain about it. I don't feel like I have the right to complain about a problem that I'm a part of making. So yeah, I just want to say that. Like when people, people hate the red pill shit and the manosphere shit, and rightfully so. It's doing a lot of damage. People hate the fact that so many people, so many men voted for Trump or follow, fucking Andrew Tate or Kanye West or whoever. But like, I'm so much more interested in the why of it and making space for our brothers, our family members to be a part of. And my experience, Mike, is every time I've taken the space, taken the time, it always works, bro.
Always works.
It always works. It's a young dude in my family who's always talking about he wants to be in the military. I said, why? You want to kill people for a living? He's like, I never really thought about it like that. He said, let's go watch a movie. I want to watch like some military shit. I took him to go see No Other Land. And it wasn't like, if I started using all the $20 words, the colonization, racism, blah, 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 he just would have been like, bro, later for that shit. But it's like, let's go see. You think the U.S. military is the shit, bro? Let's go see it. Real life. This is not a made up movie. It's a documentary of what U.S. military power does around the world. And then compare that to who you want to be in life. And you know what he said when we were leaving the theater? I wonder if those girls crying behind us, if I could have got their number. And it's still my boy.
Still your boy. But I think that's the thing that I'm really coming into acceptance of is the word that keeps coming into my heart is grace. And we're complex beings, but we're reflections of each other and we're reflections of the society. So you met your cousin where he needed to be met. And it wasn't through your words. It was like, check this out. And then, then he made that comment, and then you're going to do what you did with Jazz. Like, hey, man,
Yeah, that was it. I said, what made you think that they wanted to, did they seem romantically interested in that moment? Did you, we got in the conversation.
Of course.
But to me, it's grace, but it's also humility.
Yeah, exactly.
88's story works so well in Songs from the Hole because he killed somebody and his brother was killed. So when he meets the dude who kills his brother, he's looking at himself. That's me. With my boy who's talking about, I wonder if I could have got those girls' number. That's me when Jazz is walking up talking about, you look fat or whatever. That there's nothing any man has done that I haven't also done, thought, whatever. So to get all up in arms is crazy. It's like, give somebody the same grace that you need.
That's
type shit.
We need more of this. This is the real conversation that folks don't want to have, because then it holds them accountable.
Right.
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 And that's the hard part. And accountability has gotten a bad rap.
Right.
Because then it's like it's tarnished with judgment. Like someone's right and someone's wrong. When it's like, and even like masculine accountability, I'm trying to figure out other words. Right? Because when I say those words, then someone automatically goes, what? I'm not accountable. No, you. And I was thinking about in 2020, when all this stuff was popping off, you and I actually co-produced a sick album.
Yeah.
Defund the Sheriff. And now that I'm thinking about it in real time, that's the power of music and art. It's the feeling that we're trying to convey. It's the feeling when he sat in the theater and watched. It wasn't the words.
Right.
It was the feeling.
Right.
And we're creating a culture of feeling.
Yep.
And that is the work. Local, relationship to relationship. And that's the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this is an affirmation that I'm not crazy. And I like to hang out with the weirdos. Because the weirdos are actually, that's our ancestry.
Yeah.
This whole thing has made us think like that way. But no, that's what we all want. That's all we all desire is love, belonging, connection, support.
That's it.
That's bottom line. So
yeah.
Cool. Well, then the sacred five.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question. There's 5 questions you answer in a word or a sentence, and just practical things for the listeners. So the first thing is name 3 things that make you feel safe, connected, and whole.
3 things that make me feel safe, connected, and whole. Jazz music. Being listened to. And blueberries. Zion actually taught me blueberries help us listen better.
Shout out to Zion too. We've been dropping a lot of names. Before I go to the next question, do you have a favorite or favorites jazz artists for those that are listening?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of who I was just listening to. I was just bumping the hell out of some jazz. There's this album with John Coltrane and Miles Davis together. That album, to be honest.
All day. All right. This goes off of that. The same question. What song, book, or prayer brings you back to yourself?
The last song on College Dropout by Kanye West is called Last Call. It's like 14 minutes of him telling his whole story. I listen to that song and it reminds me of like who I was when I first heard it, and who I wanted to be then and how I am the person now that I wanted to be then, and it helps me stay.
And I love, it's crazy. We've dropped Kanye's name twice in this conversation. Yeah. And he is an example of, are we really going to be someone that loves on someone that needs a lot of support? Or are we going to cancel him for a lot of wild shit that we have all done, but he has a massive platform to wild out. But this is where the principles and the accountability really come into action.
Yeah.
And it's funny you're saying that because like there's a couple of his tracks I still fucking bang. Like,
Hell yeah.
Bro, like, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation, but yes.
No, I appreciate that. I be watching, they be making these documentaries of whoever the latest monster is. Yeah. And it pisses me off how people are just like, I hate this fool. And I'm like, bro, you love this fool. Yeah. Stop it. You are this fool. If we took your daily habits and your daily patriarchy and blew them up by $1 billion and 100 million followers, they would be making a documentary about you.
Truth.
Like there's yeah, the way that we like individualize stuff in this culture is wild. And that's not to not hold people accountable. It's like every time I was just watching the Diddy one last night, and every person on there I was fascinated because I'm like, not to bash documentary or even bash Diddy, but I was just like looking at these people and I'm like, man, there's one guy who was like, he said at one point, he said, that's when I joined the cult. And I decided I was just going to support whatever this dude got going on because it was keeping my lights on. I was like, this is the only real nigga on the motherfucking show so far. That is that, bro. You bought in and decided to hitch the ride and let this shit happen to the point where it exploded. And anyway, like everything is bigger than an individual.
Everything. And everything is a choice and everything is relational. You just literally described a relationship. So, all right. Next question. What's one daily ritual or practice that grounds you?
I gotta work out in the morning or I feel crazy. That's just the jail nigga in me, honestly. It was my only mental health care for years. And yeah, if I wake up and grab my phone versus wake up and go grab the bars, night and day difference in how my day is about to go.
Love it. What's one small action listeners can take this week on their healing journey?
Man, whatever you're already working on, tell somebody to hold you to it.
And is there a one-line blessing or quote that inspires you?
I'm a quote Inigo Mateo. It's her quote from the film Songs from the Hole. And she said, my healing is not based in someone else's punishment.
Say it one more time.
She actually says, my healing can never be found in someone else's punishment.
And she's a sick artist.
And is.
Sick artist. Richie, I feel like I want to get what did you have? I feel like I want to get Hello Kitty teddy bears.
I got hell of them.
I know you do. And just post and keep talking like all night because the conversation is making me a better person, a better human, because of the trust and respect that I have for you and all that you are and all that your lineage is. And so I oftentimes take this moment just to kind of reflect back some things. And first, I want to honor your brilliance.
Thank you, man.
No, like on some real talk, like I run into a lot of people, we run into a lot of people, and sometimes we're like people that are like super intelligent, like brainiacs, and like you just like effed me up because you just made me think of a whole nother way of life or way of thinking or way of being. But you're that rare person that does that but puts it into practice.
Man.
Bro.
Thank you.
No, seriously.
Thank you. No, I mean, I'm a reflection of my community for real. And but that I really appreciate you saying that because that is really what I'm committed to.
Yeah, no.
Like we got to make this shit in real life, bro.
I
met a lot of smart niggas in prison. They didn't want to be there. Let's find a way out.
But then the question is, are you smart though? That's the question, right? Because if you're not living it or practicing it, then it's just words. Which the second thing you're really reminding me is like what you keep uplifting. It's you're a product and a part of communities that are willing to struggle and love and figure it out together. And that's the common thing that I think is different, like together, not alone, but together, not just with people, but with the land and the animals and everything else, the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, history doesn't always tell the stories of who really sacrificed to transform culture. And I chose that word sacrifice, but when I sit beside you, across from you, the word sacrifice doesn't come to me. The word living comes to me, which is a beautiful thing. Like, because you are really like being what we're going to create with our imagination. The new world that we are creating is actually already here. It's genuinely in our relationships.
Yep.
And so if we can just remember that, then we won't throw anyone away. We won't cancel anyone. We will try to figure out the why. And who do you really want to be if you could be whoever you wanted to be without anybody talking smack and just allowing you to be your full, authentic, beautiful self. And so I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for questioning culture. Thank you for creating culture. And thank you for being like a true definition of someone that is a loving and caring person. I want to just keep talking, and I just love you. And I want to say I love you because I do. And I want to model that it's okay to be your authentic self. It's okay to just be all the things that you are, and the complications and the contradictions. And that's just the beauty of being a person. So just thank you. Genuinely, thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for this space. Thank you for seeing me.
Yeah.
Thank you for like being who you are. And we need this space, bro, bad. So thank you. And I'm honored and a reflection of everything you see in me, I see in you. And I love you too.
I love you. Cool. Thank you. Sacred Lessons is a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network, Sacred Lessons Media, and the Prince Group. For more of your favorite shows, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.